Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lemonade Stand Show. I'm your host, Tara Armstrong. Thanks so much for coming, joining the conversation today where we love to empower women in their business and thrive from all the things that they have to share with us. And today we have a woman, her name is Melinda. She is a wealth mindset coach and she helps parents instill a wealth mindset into their children. Pretty cool, right? And I'm so excited to have her. So let's bring Melinda into the lemonade stand. Come on in, Melinda. And yeah, and sometimes we think of wealth, right? Like as the finances that we make. But she is really big on helping parents instill negotiation skills, power of listening, critical thinking, things like that, that really can help your children. Here she comes. To be able to share with us today in helping parents do that. And even if you're not a parent, these things are really good as an adult, even in your business, to be able to communicate with people and have all the tools necessary. Hey, Melinda, how you doing?
Good. Yeah.
Tell everyone where you're calling in from.
I'm calling in from New York.
Yes, we got the two coasts on the line. Come on, so good. So I was just telling them about how you love working with parents and helping them instill a wealth mindset into their children. Can you talk about what a wealth mindset is?
Well, to me, wealth mindset is synonymous with a growth mindset, with an abundance mindset. It's like being able to see the world in a plentiful way. There's never a lack. But, I always say everything starts with the mindset and everything starts with your parents. So this is why I empower parents with the knowledge to instill that mindset into their kids.
So good. And hey, everyone, thanks for joining us. And if you have questions for Melinda along the way, just throw them in the comments. Okay, so one of the things that you're big on is the power of listening. Can you talk to us what that is and why it's so important?
Yes. Since kids model our behaviors, right? If you want your child to listen, you have to listen to them. Really simple, but sometimes it can be hard. I understand, like, when there's a lot going on, you just kind of want them to get things done and kind of move on with the day because there's so much to do. But really taking the few minutes to sit down and listen to whatever they have to express, whatever they're feeling, whatever emotions they need to work through, just giving them the time and space to work through it and not necessarily try to fix the problem.
So good.
Listening to them and listening not with the intent of responding, listening to understand.
So good. So do you suggest like doing that like once a day? Make it a habit
Yeah,
of like, okay, like at this time we're all going to sit down and like listen to what each other had, like maybe how their day went, something like that.
I would definitely suggest that. Actually, I'm actually really going through this week because my daughter started school this week and she's starting at a new school and she's never been to a new school in her. It's the first time she's at a new school. First time she's a new kid at a school, and she's going through a lot of different emotions. And when I pick her up from school, I just have to listen for about
You
30
got a
minutes.
lot to say. Yeah, that's so good. And what do you think it is that when, our child is speaking, especially since we live in this like very much like social media driven world, we're all, like plugged to our phones. What do you think the child receives from it when we actually like lay down our phone and just lean in and listen to their heart and what they have to say?
Well, one, they know that they have a safe space.
Yeah.
One, safe space. One that they realize or they feel like their feelings and thoughts and actions are valued when you sit and listen to someone and don't interrupt them and don't try to fix their problem, and don't just have a response for everything they say. They feel like, okay, my feelings are being heard. Um, I'm valued. What I have to say is of importance.
Yeah.
And all things that I think help with them learning about themselves. But then when they're out in the world, they know, okay, I have to listen to people when they talk. I
So
can
good.
interrupt people when there's, sometimes people just need me to sit here and listen, and I don't have to fix their problems.
Yeah.
So what you're teaching them is not only helping them and their self, but when they get out into the world, how they interact with people when they're in school, people when they're with the teachers, or any family, friends, whoever,
Yeah.
how to interact with people, how to communicate with people properly and effectively.
So good. Yeah, that's so good. So and so needed, you know, like I feel like a lot of people are very self-centered sometimes and it's they want to make it all about them, all the conversation. And I love that you're teaching children, you know, the parents that teach their children to listen to the hearts of other people that are going on around you. Like don't just be about yourself, but be about other people. And you never know what the person next to you might be going through. And you have tips or tools to be able to help them. So I love that you are teaching that into the world. We need it so badly. And then what about critical thinking?
Critical thinking, well, that goes into not solving all their problems for them. So when you're listening to them and they're expressing certain things that maybe they feel they don't have a resolution for, it doesn't mean you have to give them a resolution. What is ask probing questions to help them solve their own problem. Like say they have an issue with a kid at the school and they're like, well, I don't understand why this is happening with this person, you know? Then you just ask questions, and then once they start answering those questions, if you ask the right questions, they can probably solve their own problem. And if they feel that they solve their own problem as opposed to you solving all their own problems, trust me, that's going to make them feel much more empowered. And also it's going to start to make your parenting a lot easier, because the more of their problems they can solve on their own, the less you have to solve their problems for them. And that's preparing them for the world, because solving problems is part of life.
Yeah.
It's not part of life.
That's so good. And what would you say to the mothers out there that, like, you know, sometimes as mothers, I'm not a mother yet, but you know, I hear of this often where that feels like their role, like they have to solve the problem, they have to mother their children. So what would you say to those mothers that like want to constantly interrupt and inject their opinion, their thoughts, their, you know, ideas and fix the problem for their child? Because you know, if your child's hurting, like the first thing we want to do is rush to their aid and like help them, right? So what would you say to those mothers?
Well, you have to check yourself. Yeah. You know,
there it is. Yes.
if you feel like you're going to interrupt them, stop. Or let me say this: when a child is expressing certain things to you, wait at least 10 seconds before you respond to them. So which will give you time to process it too. Okay, how should I react to this? Do they need me to solve it? Do they need me to listen? Do they need me to ask probing questions? What do they need? So if you give yourself 10 seconds at least before you answer the question, you can give yourself enough time to think of, okay, how should I approach this? You know?
Yeah.
And then,
so good.
When you're talking to somebody and then you don't just they say something and they kind of pause and you don't necessarily respond right away, they will either keep talking,
yeah,
or they'll start to answer their own questions or start to come up with their own solutions.
Yeah.
But you see?
So good. And I love it because like in the world, you're setting them up for success, right? When you allow them to think about things themselves and resolve things themselves, like you're setting them up and giving them the confidence to go out there and not rely on mom, you know, picking up the phone, you know, even though I'm an adult and I still do that. I'm like, mom, how do I handle this problem? You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's so important because it does definitely give children the confidence to be out there and be brave in this world, right? And then what about emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence, that, you know, that is a skill. I think one of the most important skills for somebody to be successful in life, and it's probably the skill that's taught the least.
Yeah.
In school, within, you know, family dynamics, of knowing. I want to say it in the best way possible. Knowing when to act and knowing when to step back and let another person act. So, in knowing when that is the right time to do so. And the more you practice it within your home with your child, the more your child will understand that and know how to do it with when they're in school, when they're in, you know, the workplace, when they're starting their business, whatever they decide to do. But it's just like a skill that has to be practiced. So you just have to do those things at home. So I think all the things we mentioned before sort of having emotional intelligence involved in it, listening without responding, giving them the ability to solve their own problems. All those things go into emotional intelligence. So if you're doing those things that we mentioned, you actually are teaching them emotional intelligence. So, you know,
so good.
for others, and know how to show that empathy. So it's one thing to feel something for somebody, but then how to express that in the proper way so that the person feels heard, feels seen, feels comfortable expressing things to you. And if you want your child to express things to you, parents will say, well, then my kid doesn't tell me this or my kid doesn't tell me that. That's usually because you're not giving them the space to do so. You're not making them feel so if you see that, if you feel like your child doesn't express things to you, then you gotta again check yourself as a parent, which
that you're not overreacting.
Reacting to certain situations. Yeah, that's a really good one. Overreacting is something a lot of moms do, because like, oh my gosh, this happened. Oh my gosh. And you gotta like check your emotions and be like, oh, this happened.
You gotta play it cool, like, oh, okay, yeah.
How did that make you feel? That's where you go with the probing questions. How did that make you feel? How did you react? How did the other person react? What do you think would have been the best way to handle that situation? So you just ask the questions, and then they will come up with their own solutions. And if there aren't, then maybe there is a time where, well, yes, you do have to step in. But it's usually far down the line, farther down the line than we would like.
Yeah.
And I also want parents to know that we may be raising our kids in ways we weren't raised. Me too. So sometimes you are gonna kind of slip back into those old ways, and not to be too hard on yourself about it. Okay, we all make mistakes. We all, your child doesn't mind if you make a mistake. Your child will mind if you make a mistake and try to just gloss over it and not apologize, acknowledge it, have a conversation about it. Yes, that's going to cause problems. But if you made a mistake, oh, I did this, and I wasn't supposed to react this way, I should have reacted this way, and you just have a conversation, I'm sure your child will be okay with it.
Yeah, so good. It looks like you got a shout out from Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl. Thanks for joining us. And anybody else that has questions, throw them in the comments. Okay. And then what about you talk about negotiation skills. What does that look like?
No, one of my daughter's favorite things.
I don't know if I want to teach my daughter negotiation skills, or my son, right? I don't know, because I had a mouth on me when I was little, right? And I argued everything. And so I'm like, if I have a child like that, Lord help me.
I would say, okay, yes, it's not easy to have a child that has a mouth and expresses themselves fully. It's not. But I would say this, in the beginning when they're younger, yes, it's going to be a lot more work to let your child fully express themselves. But as they get older, it actually makes parenting a lot easier.
How so? Break that down.
You do all the work on the front end to build up all the skills we're discussing today, so that by the time they're 18 or in teen years, they can pretty much, they have their emotional intelligence is high, their critical thinking is high, their power of listening is high. So you don't have to be doing that. You sort of become a parent that just gets to enjoy their child, to continuously parent them, because you've already set them up for success. I always say the greatest measure of success for a parent is when your child is of age. If they can get out into the world and thrive and survive without you, then you've done your job. Now, I know that's hard for some parents, because what do? I know my child anymore. And that's hard for you. That's another thing you have to check yourself on, right? But you asked about negotiation, right? So negotiation skills, it's a gift and a curse, yes. It's a curse, yes. But I mean, it's part of what setting them up for success and being able to thrive and survive in the world. So I always say, you can start with something very small when they're younger, much younger. What restaurant would you like to go to? What food would you like to eat at the restaurant? And then if they say, well, I want to eat hot dogs and fries and a milkshake, but you want them to...
Why are you calling my childhood out? Why are you going to call my childhood out? That's all I ever wanted.
Then you say, well, you can have the hot dog, but you got to have some vegetables. And they're going to say, well, if I got to have the vegetables, can I have some, the milkshake too? And you guys kind of go back and forth. And that's an example of doing it when they're younger. You see? And as they get older, I mean, it gets more, obviously, more deeper than that. But, it gets more.
When they hit their teen years, like I did, I was coming in with my diagrams and everything. Why I should have what I need to have.
But I think that's great, because if your child does want to do something that is intense and that is deep and it's going to require a lot of
Yeah.
you, a lot of time, a lot of your energy, and you're not sure if they're going to really take it seriously, yes, them creating a essay, a diagram, a business plan, anything
Oh,
like
so
that.
you're for that.
I'm for that. Having a business plan and fully expressing why they should do this and how they should do this and how they're going to do this. They have a plan of action.
Yeah.
Even if I don't agree with it, if your plan of action looks right, I'm going to say, okay, go ahead. I'm 100%
Yeah.
go ahead, because you have your plan. It sounds legit. It makes sense to me. Why would I deny it? Like, if in the business world somebody comes to you with a business plan and that business plan looks right, numbers sound right, everything's good, you would go
Yeah.
with it, whether you think your business is the best business in the world. But if the numbers are looking right and the business plan is looking right, then go. And
Yeah.
that's how we should approach it with our children. And that also teaches them about creating um, a plan for themselves, a plan of action for themselves. So when they get out in the world, they need a plan of action
Yeah.
to succeed. So this is just showing them how to do it from the beginning. So like, it tells them, well, if I want to do something and I want people to support me in doing this, I need to show them my action plan, and I need to basically, map it out for them, or spell it out for them. And that's a skill set that is definitely needed to
Wow.
succeed.
Wow, so good. Come on. So what about then like the parents that are listening right now and they're like, oh man, I haven't done any of this. And their kids are already maybe like, like 9 headed into their teens, right? What would you say to them?
It's never too
Okay.
late. It's never too late to start. You just start where you are. I mean, the first step obviously is, working on yourself as a parent and
Yeah.
accepting that the way you were raised may not be the way you should continue raising your
Yeah.
kid. But as
Yeah.
long as you're open, your mindset is open, you have the growth mindset, the abundance mindset, the wealth mindset, no matter what age they are, there's never too late to start. Start
Yeah.
where start where you are, because even if you're starting at 10, 15, 17, it's still a ways ahead of someone that's unlearning all this stuff at 30,
Yeah.
40, 50, so
So good. Yeah.
it's never too late.
And then what about like the parents that have the children that are just a little like you want to like shake them a little bit.
Oh,
Probably like my mom was to me. She was like, ah,
oh.
like what would you say for that? Like we're just like, I am so tired. Like I can't do this. Like this is a lot of work to like instill all of this in my child. I just want them to eat their food and go to bed.
It is a lot of work. I'm not going to deny this. This is not for the parent that wants to have easy parenting.
Yeah.
Not in the beginning. In the end, yes, but not in the
Yeah.
beginning. It's not easy. I don't want to tell you any false stories. But I would say if it's a little bit too much to like do everything,
Yeah.
pick one area that you want to focus on. Is it the listening? Okay. Every day I'm just
So
going to
good.
listen to my child for 30 minutes a day. If that's all
Yeah.
you do, then do that, Or if it's the critical thinking, the probing questions, when they're telling you
So good.
the probing questions. If it's the emotional intelligence, it's about the empathy and listening to others and caring about others and genuinely, wanting to know about other people. And
Yeah.
but all
So
that
good.
starts with just doing it in the home.
Yeah.
Just doing it at home. It's not like you have to sit down and, come out and make it a special part of your day. You can incorporate all this into your day. It could be on the drive to school where you're listening to them talk, or the drive home from school. So it doesn't need to, you don't have to necessarily set out a certain time in the day. It just becomes part of your life,
Wow.
your daily life.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Like you don't have to take it in all at once. And like, if you're listening right now, you don't have to like grab a hold of everything that Melinda's saying and like go for it all. Like just choose one of those categories and get really great at doing that and implementing that into your child's life. And I think that from there, you'll build that muscle of like, okay, like let me just put down my phone and listen, like that could be the first step. And then what about like, do you think that like all of this should start like when they're like an infant, like when they're like a newborn?
Um,
Do you think that
well,
you can instill things like that into like a small child?
yes, my daughter started at it's like a democratic free school when she was 4 years old. And they started that kind of education at pre-K level. So
Oh wow.
4 years old, you can. Everything is obviously in that stage. It's a little simple. Like the things about going out to eat and
Yeah.
letting them, like you let them pick the restaurant that we
Yeah.
go go eat at, or you let them pick what they wear today, what they wear that day. You know, even if you don't like their
Yeah.
wear, the fact that they get to pick it and wear it, that, you know, that's something in itself. So it doesn't have to be this deep thing. Like when they're younger, it's just little simple tasks that you let them make a choice. Letting them make a choice, letting them have a voice. So this is something parents are not going to like to hear. Letting them have a tantrum.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Not embracing their tantrum. Letting them fully go through the
Get it
motion
out.
of having the
What if
tantrum.
they're in public? Do you agree? Do you still say let them like just go
Um,
for it?
my daughter has had tantrums on the New York City
Oh,
train.
geez. Oh my gosh. And what do you do when she does that?
I mean, just let her go.
Just let her go?
Just let her go. I mean, it's usually pretty quick. Like, I mean, this is when she was much smaller,
Yeah.
but let her go. It's usually just a few minutes. It really usually ends up being longer when you try to stop them. But if you
Yeah.
let them get it out, it's usually just a few minutes. If you have, you know, you may have to step off the train, step off to the side. I'm not saying just stay in that area you're in. Like, you know, step off to the side, step off to the train, wait till they calm down, and then get on the next train. You know,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Let them go. It's going to usually be a few minutes, and then they get it out and they'll be over, and then you get on the next train and you continue your
Yeah.
day.
Have you ever had it where it just kept going and you're just like, okay, look your child?
No, no, it's usually a few minutes. I mean, I can only speak from my experience. It's usually only a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's only been a
And probably because you started early with her, right? So like
yeah,
she learned, and like you were saying, like when you give them the attention, they know that they have your attention, so they're going to throw the tantrum even longer,
yeah,
right? Like, but if
yeah,
you're just like, go ahead, do your thing, girl, you know, or whatever, you know, like they are just like, well, this is not fun because I don't get the attention of my mom,
yeah.
right? But that also goes into sometimes they're throwing the tantrum because they want your attention. And if you're already spending quality time with them on the daily and building that up, then then they're not going to throw the tantrum because they need your attention. They're doing it for some other reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. So what would you say is, this will be our last question. What would you say is the best piece of advice that anyone's ever given you?
Best piece of advice. Uh, Let your child be who they are.
So good.
Not who you want them to be, but who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
Mhm.
good. And how do you as a parent just let them, like, what does that look like?
What does it look like? Say when they're saying, let them pick their outfit, even
Yeah.
if you don't like at all what they're
Yeah.
picking, it doesn't. You're not feeling that style.
Yeah.
Let wear that and be comfortable and not having any judgment towards it.
Yeah.
Is letting them be who they are at that age. When they get
Mm.
a little older, if they have certain interests, hobbies, or whatever it is, and you don't necessarily think it's beneficial to their education, that doesn't matter. They like it, they enjoy it, let them do it. And when kids go through hobbies, interests really quickly, so
Yeah.
if they're really interested, they'll stick with it, and that they'll move on to the next thing. It's not that deep really for them at that point. So
Yeah.
we make it so deep, like, why? I don't get it. And you start putting your own insecurities, your own issues, like it doesn't fit into your whatever little road map you have in your head of how their life should be going,
Yeah.
those type of things. And I really don't believe in like labeling kids as bad or,
Yeah.
those labels are bad. That's usually what they use, bad or disobedient or disrespectful. I don't really like labeling kids like that. So disrespectful usually is just a kid that's comfortable expressing themselves fully.
Yeah.
That you take it personal. So you take it personal as a parent. So now they're disrespecting you.
Yeah.
No, they're expressing themselves. You may not like it the way they're expressing it, but that's what they're doing. And that's
Yeah.
the probing questions. Well, why did you say this like that? What makes you feel that way? Da, da, da. And then usually, once communication is obviously the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You communicate with, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
So
And,
good.
well, I didn't know you. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't know you took it like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's teaching them about emotional intelligence because they didn't know. They didn't know
So
you
good.
took it. They didn't know somebody would be offended by something like that.
Yeah. So good. Come on, Melinda. Well, thank you so much for sharing. How can people find you or reach out to you if they have more questions or maybe want to work with
Yeah.
you? How can they find you?
On Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram, DM me on Instagram. You can join my email list on the link in my bio on Instagram, because I will be dropping a course very
Come
soon
on.
on on how parents, some simple ways parents can, implement or instill a wealth mindset into their children. So if you want to be updated on when that's going to be dropping, and all the information I have going on, just join my email list and follow me on Instagram. And don't be afraid to DM me with any questions or concerns. Or I know this can be a lot for parents.
Yeah.
It can be and I like to teach from the perspective of a parent, and not from the perspective of like a professional that would study this, but as a parent that's literally experiencing this on a daily basis. So I can give you real life examples.
Yeah, so good, Melinda. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing all this. Is such great information. And for those that are listening, thanks for joining us. Like she said, slide into her DMs, ask her questions, get on her email list so that you can sign up for this course, because it's going to be very valuable. And we want to create a generation that has a heart that wants to lean in, hear people, listen to people, have great negotiating skills, set our children up for success. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Melinda. And we'll see you guys next time on the Lemonade Stand Show. Bye, you guys.